Hannes Seifert is the CEO of IO Interactive, and of course these guys are very famous for their long run with the Hitman games. We are kind of going back to the roots, I guess, or it's kind of a reboot or a reimagination of what Hitman is with a title called simply Hitman. Hannes, tell us a little bit about some of the new ideas and the new concepts for Hitman now in 2016.
Yeah, so we've been celebrating 15 years of Hitman, and we looked back at all the games we've created. We've only done 5 games so far in these 15 years, and this is our 6th game now to come. And when we look back at these games, each of them had a specific strength and a specific weakness. We know what people loved and hated about it, and we tried to distill what people really liked about it and to fix what people disliked. So concretely that means the open world approach of games like Blood Money. That was something people really liked, that you can save the game, they can experiment, complete freedom of approach. And from that perspective, yes, we are going back to the roots of where the game is strongest. We also brought back the world traveling, like a Silent Assassin or a Contracts offered. And we also took from Absolution what people really liked about it, the technology, the advances we did in AI, and not at least the controls and the control scheme and how it feels on the sticks. But one big thing that we introduced with Absolution was Contracts mode. And that was, you could say, our take on multiplayer, and it was tremendously successful. So far we had 30 million contracts played in a game where we really failed adding content in the live aspect afterwards.
Right.
And even to this day, like last month, a few 100,000 people still playing that. And that really inspired us. So we make the big decision that the next game, that we also just called Hitman, to emphasize it's a combination of that brought to the current generation of hardware with the biggest levels ever that we are now finally able to create the way we imagine them. And we decided to make that what we call a fully episodic AAA game, also with a major live component. So the game will release over the course of 2016. It will start March 11th, and every month we'll add content. Concretely in April, we'll add Italy already, and in May we'll add Morocco, and then we'll add extra content every month until it concludes in 2016. And we also keep our promises with the locations on Thailand and USA and Japan. These are also to come.
What is it about our fascination to kill folks with Hitman? Why is this game so persistent? Why has it been so popular?
I think there are many aspects to that. When you're referencing the Scandinavian culture there, I think the dark humor that the game brings with it, it's very important to make it a game that also feels gamey enough and entertaining enough.
Sure.
Because after all, you're playing an assassin traveling the world, right? Yeah. So it needs a certain amount of humor. I think why it's been so successful for such a long time, there are 2 main elements. One is 47 himself. He's pretty iconic, and he's recognizable. And I think that makes him just stand out from the crowd. He's also a canvas, so you can project yourself into him because he's a tool, right? You're playing with him, and he does whatever your play style is. And that brings me to the second thing. I think that when you look at the gaming landscape, even nowadays, there are not many games, if any at all, that offer that kind of density and freedom of choice that we have in a Hitman game.
Right.
Yes, there are other open world games. Some of them are very big and they have hundreds of square miles, but there's also a lot of emptiness in it. But what we pride ourselves in, and I think that's also where we're strongest, is that we create this, we call them the creative stealth action sandboxes, where you can interact with everything, like you can poison the glass, or you can crush a light rig, or from big to small, you can do all of these things.
When did you guys decide that episodic was going to be the way that you were going to go with this?
We did some soul searching on how we actually execute that, but the vision, the original idea, came right after Hitman Absolution.
Okay.
Because we had to solve 2 challenges. One is we are a pretty small development studio for the league we are playing in, and it took us 6 years between Blood Money and Absolution.
Right.
And that is a very long time to react to player feedback and to what we think is the right thing to do to a game.
Right.
And there are also the emergence of, let's say, other live games, not necessarily episodic games. And when we thought about it, the term episodic wasn't even coined for games at that point in time. Okay. But we always knew we wanted to have this. We then called it our ever-expanding world of Hitman, which became the world of assassination, where that you can add locations. We wanted to travel the world. We're going to go back to the roots with the gameplay, and we offer exotic locations at 47 at his prime, killing targets that practically only he is able to take out.
Right.
And that's a promise that works better if it keeps changing and keeps expanding. And we also had this vision of finally getting to a mode where we have an idea for an overarching story that can carry many games. And that leads very naturally to this, if you want to say, TV-style episodic gameplay. It's not necessarily the right thing for every game.
Yeah.
But for Hitman, it fits perfectly. It's very close to the fantasy. If
Yeah.
you're a Hitman, you get an assignment, you have to travel somewhere, study the location, perfect your execution, and then strike, right? And some of these targets might be more challenging because they are time limited and they will leave the place again. These are all things we can only do if we're live and this ever growing and also reacting to what people actually like, we can do in an episodic way. However, I want to add also what was always important for us, players can actually get all of that for a fixed price.
Okay.
So $60, you get all of that at any point in time. If you're a player, you say, no, I don't want to play episodically, I want it when it's all out. Nobody's holding you back doing that. End of 2016, we eventually will even ship it on the disc. So you can make your choice. Like in the game, you can make your choice when and how you buy it. But if you want to be part of the journey, then you can start earlier, and we launch the first one on March 11th.
Yeah, I mean, you guys must have most of the game done. I would imagine that the development kind of structure hasn't changed that much. It's just that now you have months in between releases to polish and tweak levels, I guess, right?
Actually, our development structure has changed quite a bit over the last
Okay.
years,
All
because if you want to take life seriously, you need to be a different kind of development studio.
Okay.
It's not like rushing to the end with no weekends and then everybody needs a 3 months break after the game is out.
Okay.
It's actually the opposite. When you ship, that's when your stress actually starts. Yeah. So we have things that take a long time to develop, like let's say a level or a location. We also have things that can be done very rapidly, like balancing and tweaking. And then there are things in between, like features and certain elements of it. And we are determined to actually do that. We have an extended season that we can actually tweak, change, and add features over the course of the season.
Okay.
Right now, this is the game we think is the best game we can possibly ship. But we also thought that at Hitman Absolution. And then, of course, with every game we ship, we want to ship the best possible game we can ship.
Yeah.
But then we saw, for instance, in Absolution, the first weeks, I don't know whether you played it, but the first weeks people had opinions about the disguise balancing. So we made a first decision for us at the studio that we've never done before. We actually used a patch to change the balancing because the console started to be highly connected. We knew we could reach like 70-80% of the players on console, 99% on PC, and we decided, you know what, let's react to that. And that was scratching the surface of what we want to do now. And I'm actually completely convinced it's going to be a much better game after it has been running for a while as well. Just because that's when what we think is the best right now has been tested with the players.
That's interesting. Okay, so the world design and the level design must be one of the most intense parts of developing this. Most of the levels must be done by this point, the stages themselves.
Well, some of them are, of course. Obviously, what we ship with the prologue and with Paris, that is practically complete and is now in final bug fixing and tweaking.
Okay.
The same is true for Italy. That is, of course, not that far, but much further as well. But the further down we look, the more leeway we have to actually react to it. There's also more leeway we have to make decisions on what do we want to add or remove from a level. But it's true, you cannot create a Hitman sandbox in 2 months.
Right.
So we need to have an idea and world design for many things to come also in the future. But that's always been the case. However, when it comes to features, that is something, we are where we want to be. We always have ideas for more stuff. In the past, that meant these ideas will be shipped in 3-4 years. I sincerely hope and actually expect some of these ideas will be shipped over the course of the season as well.
And that will come directly from player feedback and from player analytics, I guess, from watching people play this thing.
Yes, exactly. There are 2 things we want to take into account. One is listening to what players say, and the other thing is observing what players actually do. These things don't always overlap, and sometimes they do.
Yeah.
Also, we need to be mindful that our really core fans, we listen to them very closely. They are also a smaller group, of course. They're not necessarily representative for the millions of people that play it and don't say a word. But both of them are important for us. And as designers, we have to strike the right balance that we keep the game as good as possible for the mass of players playing it, while staying true to the core. Because Hitman, I would say it's a connoisseur brand.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a sports game that is extremely accessible to everybody.
Right.
It's a very big brand, millions of people play it, but it's a game for gamers.
Very cool. Now, talk about the morality that's kind of present in this game. You guys try to always color these things with a little bit more depth than just you got to go take out a mafia boss, you know. And you punch it up in your World of Assassination video there a little bit. Are you kind of following stuff that's happening in real world? Are you taking, like, Law and Order style, taking ideas from headlines and saying, well, we can pull some of that right into the gameplay here?
Well, Yes, both is true, right?
Yeah,
We get
okay.
inspiration from entertainment media, but we also get inspiration from the real world because nothing tells more stories than the real world.
Yeah.
Our turnaround times for creating locations are sometimes a bit too long to react to something completely short notice.
Yeah.
But the inspiration of what is happening globally, what is the trend in entertainment, what is the trend in narrative structures? We take that into account. That the new game is more the flavor of a thriller when it comes to the narrative structure and to the characters we introduce, and not so much an action flick. There are so many action flick style games out there,
Yes.
but there is hardly any game out there where you can be an agent, an assassin in a world that has thriller elements. However, humor must never be too short in a Hitman game as well.
Absolutely. Is 47 kind of drawing on his own agenda throughout the story of this experience in this game, or is he just following orders?
In Hitman Absolution, he was more driven by a story and by his character. Where this is a good way of telling stories, we don't think it's the right way for 47 going forth. So we take him a little bit back. He and especially his long-term handler, Diana Burnwood, who is the actual, I would say, character in the game. Together they drive the story forward.
Okay, cool. And so they've got a compass that they're kind of following through. Well,
Yeah.
she does.
Yeah, well, both of them have, of course. So the basic idea we have is that as our locations are so huge right now,
Yeah.
and that's also what we want to keep because we think that's where we're pretty good. That's held together by a framework story over the course of the season that also concludes and tells a narrative over the season. But a lot of what is told in the game world is actually part of the story.
Right.
And we are sure that when you play the Paris location today, that's just a hit. But when you play it again after you have finished the season and you go back and then you listen to the guys in the level, or you watch the cutscene again, or you get what the characters are doing, you meet this KGB officer in the level that you might have used for a special way to kill your target.
Yeah.
Now you realize, that's how it works. And like in your favorite TV show where you might watch a specific episode again after you've seen the finale, that's also what we expect to happen for the people that play a Hitman for the story, right?
That's awesome.
We also know that many people play it as a toy, don't care about the story,
Right.
but love the density of the sandbox and the fooling around in it. And for these people, of course, that also works.
Is there more pressure on you guys to kind of deviate from episode to episode and location to location, so that the people that are just coming back every month feel like they're getting a completely new experience with no sort of replication of tactics and
Yeah.
and weapons and stuff?
Well, that is very important to us no matter what. So
Yeah.
we wanted to bring the world traveling back. That's also why we've announced 7 locations. They are very, very big and they are extremely diverse. You want this assassination tourism in the game. You go to new exotic locations like Thailand or Italy or the US. You go to different places, and that requires, of course, a completely different approach. Some of them might be at night, like Paris is a social high society event, right? At night, highly guarded. It's a completely different setting than, let's say, the Italian coast town, where the coast town itself is an open place and touristy, right? And then there will be a hit in there that is, embedded in that. And that is a completely different gameplay approach. Even with every single target, we want that.
Are you guys going to be doing anything with vehicles? You've got some pretty large maps and things like that to play around in. Are we going to be able to jump into cars or anything else?
So we've been thinking about that, but
Yeah.
I think that's not necessarily where we are best. So right now, we try to keep the locations to a size where you can really familiarize yourself with them. And when I say that, I don't mean getting around the roads and recognizing a corner. I mean knowing, okay, that's the area where they drink this kind of champagne. That's the area where they have the red wine. This is where they are cooking. This is where they are selling the secrets. This is where the security guard is watching his VIP going to the bathroom. So it's this level of detail that makes us strong.
Now that you're episodic, are you having to shift the whole company over to manage this? Because I imagine this is a pretty big gamble for your studio.
It's actually not because of the live or the episodic aspect. It's right now we're about 120 people, so we really need to focus on Hitman. But as you said, we've always done other games like Mini Ninjas or Kane and Lynch or
Yeah.
Freedom Fighters.
Yeah.
And we work only on games that we also invented and incubated ourselves. So we're this type of studio.
Yeah.
And we'll always be looking for new stuff as well. But right now is the time to focus on shipping this game and keeping the promise we made to the players through the season. Because I wouldn't call it a gamble, but we see it as a big step forward for us. But I hope also for the games industry that for some games they can just become better if we go all in live. And for that we need determination and focus.
Hey, thanks for checking out that video on our EPN channel. It's just one small part of the things that we make around here. So if you liked it, don't forget to check out some of our other vids and hit that subscribe button.